All right, chapter 11, this one should be pretty quick. Literally shouldn't take more than 10 to 15 minutes to go through. We're going to be talking about menu-driven programs and what those are. All right, so what a menu is basically whenever you give your user an option to choose from, how your program should operate, basically a list of operations that you are displaying to your user, and then the user can select which way they want your program to go. So in this example right here, mailing menu list right here, we are presenting a user with 4 options that they can choose from: either add a name to the list, delete a name from the list, change a name in the list, print the names in the list. And then the user can enter a number 1 through 4 and make their selection on what they want to do based on whatever their personal opinions, whatever they want to do with your program. So that is what we call a menu whenever we're presenting it to the user. And the backbone of a menu back in your program, in your code, how it's going to perform, usually is going to be a decision structure. So if, else, if, else, if, then, all of those structures that we covered earlier, I think in chapter 5 or 4, somewhere there, those are in the back of your menu. So everything that the user cannot see, that's going to be just a big decision structure. And it's going to look something like, if the user enters 1, do this. If the user enters 2, do something else. If the user enters 3, do something else, and so on for all of the options that you're presenting your user with. Here's a flowchart and just a little example of the menu selection. And as you can see here, we're starting right here, and we're just following the arrows. So we're going to declare some variables. It doesn't really important right now. It's not really important right now. Then we're displaying 3 options for the user to choose from: either convert inches to centimeters, or convert feet to meters, or convert miles to kilometers. And then we're going to ask the user to make their selection. So we want them to say either 1, 2, or 3, whatever they want to do. And based on the user's number that they type for us, we are going to proceed with each of these cases. So if they choose 1, we're going to follow this arrow right here, and we're going to do all of these things that are under the first number. Then if they choose 2, we're going to follow the arrow that leads us to number 2, 3, and this is the default if the user selects an invalid number. So if they select anything that is not 1, 2, or 3, we're going to display that this is an invalid selection. All right. You can also validate, so you can validate the user selection before the user even types anything, and you can do that with a loop. In this case, we're using a while loop. While the menu selection is less than 1, or menu selection is greater than 3, in that case, we're going to display that this is an invalid selection, and then we're going to ask the user to input the selection again. And this loop will run until the user enters 1, 2, or 3. So if the user types anything that is outside of those 3 numbers, we're going to keep telling them that this is an invalid selection and they need to choose a different number to type for us. All right, let's see, performing many tasks. So since your menu will usually usually will have a lot of other options for user to go through. So now maybe just not 1, 2, 3, maybe more, like maybe you will have, I don't know, 20 options for the user to pick from. You never know how many your program might need. You should be putting all of those single decisions into modules. So for each case that you are presenting to your user, so for example, you have 5 different options for the user to choose from, you need to create 5 modules. So 1 module for each of those options that you're showing your user. And why you might think why we would do that? Well, it's just easier to follow the flow of your program that way. And it's easier for other people that are looking at your code, or for other people that are working on your code, it's easier to see where each thing belongs. So basically, it's easier to see, like you will look, okay, if the user selects 1, this is the module number 1 that's going to belong to this selection. So it's just easier for everybody to understand and easier to control if there's something goes wrong. If something goes wrong with one of your modules, you will know exactly where that error occurred and what you need to do to fix it. Right, here's another example of the flowchart. However, we now modularized our program. So this is the same module. This is the same program as I showed you before in the flowchart. Let me show you. So this one, you see how big this is. This is a lot of code, a lot of different structures, a lot of different sentences. However, and this looks just more neat. It looks more clean, and it's just easier to understand. So we're starting right here with the main, and again, it's the same program, so nothing is too much different. We're asking, then we're gonna ask the user for their selection right here, menu selection, and if they choose 1, we're gonna do the inches to centimeters module. If they choose 2, feet to meters module, 3, miles to kilometers module. So all we did, we just modularized our big piece of code into smaller little functions, little modules that we can implement inside of our program. You can also use a loop to repeat your menu. So you do not have to just present your menu once to your user and that's it. In case your user wants to perform some other action. For example, if you ever went to the ATM and you wanted to take some money out of your bank account or something, it asked you, it would ask you at the end, after you take the money out, it would ask you, do you want to do any other operation, right? If you want to do any other operation, press 1 or something like this. So it's very important to let your user use your menu as many times as the user wants it. So for that, we will be using a loop. It's a very useful way for just repeating your menu over and over and over again. And for example, in this menu right here, we have an option to end the program right here. This is a new one that we're adding. So we have display 1, convert inches to centimeters, the usual convert feet to meters, convert miles to kilometers. However, display number 4, if the user chooses 4, we're going to end the program. And this is what it will look like now with the new added option number 4. So again, the same program that we were looking at. However, if the user selects 4, then we're going to end our program. If the selection is not 4, and this sign right here means not, so if the menu selection is not 4, then we're going to go all the way here and we're going to repeat our menu all over again. So to quit this program, the user will need to type 4. If they type anything else, the program will just keep repeating itself. There's also such thing as multiple level menus, and those are just menus that are divided in 2 parts. So they will have a main menu and they will have submenus. Now, the submenus, the amount of submenus does not matter. You can have 1 or more. However, you will only have 1 main menu. And let me show you an example of that. So as you can see here, we have a long menu of 10 options for the user to choose from. And there are many different ones, such as process a sale, process a return, add a record to the inventory file. But there is a way for us to group all of these together. As you can see, these 4, they only work with inventory files, right? Add record to inventory file, search for a record, modify a record, delete a record. Now, these all work with inventory items, these 3. Inventory items by cost, by age, by retail value. So what that is telling me is that I can group these, this one long menu, I can group it into a main menu and submenus. Now, this is how we would convert it. Now, the main menu will have only 4 options. These 4 options will be process a sale or a return, update the inventory file, print an inventory report, or exit the program. Now, after that, for example, if user presses 1, that will take you to a submenu of sales and returns, which will have process a sale, process a return, go back to the main menu. So this way, the user does not need to read through all of these 10 sentences to find exactly what they're looking for. They just need to read 4 of them. right? They read 4 of them, then they click on the one that they want to, that the one that works for them. And then after that, after they click that, they will have a different menu pop up for them. And then they also have to read only 2 or 3 sentences instead of going through all of those 10 sentences that we had originally. And there are some more menus, update inventory file menu. So why would we use multiple level menus? Just to ease the life of your user and to ease the process of picking which option they want to choose. So that was it for today. Do you guys have any questions?